This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back, Edward Osovich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Georgie, another week, a game day preview here. We talked to Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central to get a little bit more on South Carolina as Oklahoma heads out to South Carolina for the first time, I believe, ever.
Yes, that
is that
correct.
right? Never played out there.
And I want to say last year is the first time they've ever played South Carolina.
Just in general. Kind of crazy. All right. Well, Oklahoma looking to bounce back, obviously, after the setback down at the Cotton Bowl. I think it's now time. You got to start moving on at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at this point, it's on to the next. And this is a big one for Oklahoma because, you know, you've heard it ad nauseum this week, but the schedule's extremely difficult, and this might be the easiest one you've got left.
No doubt. And when you remember back to last year and the Gamecocks' trip to Norman,
it was an ass kicking.
Did not go so well.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that it was 33, I think, to 3 at halftime.
Yeah.
Ended up the final score 35-9 or 36-9. It was miserable. So I guess that would have been 32-3 if I can do math correctly. I believe they just added a field goal in the second half. Obviously, you can't throw the ball over. You got a better quarterback, I would imagine, just in terms of overall capacity. There is, I think some, not concern by any means, but there is some intrigue, and we talked about it on Tuesday in the practice report. Just John Mateer's got to play better.
Yeah, and what's he going to look like this week? Is he going to look like he did against Texas? Because if he does, they're going to really struggle again this week. And so what's his status in terms of, obviously he's going to play in the game, but being able to throw the ball where he wants to? I mean, how's that thumb feeling through a full week of practice? And also just his decision making. That was the biggest issue last week, more so than him not being able to throw the ball, the way that we've seen. It was about where he was throwing the ball. So you need to have a better John Mateer this week and every week, because if Oklahoma wants to reach their goals, he's ultimately going to have to play extremely well.
The good news is all the goals are still within intact, right? The bad news, Oklahoma has been turning the ball over quite a bit. And obviously they turned the ball over 3 times last weekend, turned the ball over 4 times last year against South Carolina. 3 of those coming on the first 3 possessions of the game, and all of a sudden you found yourself down 21-0.
Yeah, and this South Carolina team, once again, is really good at forcing turnovers, and they don't give the ball away a ton either. I think they're like a +6 in the turnover margin. Obviously, Oklahoma's a -7. So, Oklahoma needs to kind of break that trend this weekend and not give the ball to South Carolina, because this is an offense, and we'll get into it. In South Carolina, they've got some big playmakers. LaNorris, obviously a nice player. We'll get to him and kind of the threats that he has. They have not been able to score or just move the ball up and down the field. So if you give them the ball in some short fields, kind of like Oklahoma, they'll take advantage of it. So I think Oklahoma needs to, one, obviously force some turnovers, help out their offense, but also on the flip side, not give the ball to South Carolina.
No doubt about it. Brent Venables kind of opened up the week on Tuesday at his press conference. You can see all of that here, as well as the breakdown that we did here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. But here is Brent Venables talking about South Carolina.
Played Missouri on the road, 20-29 games, a one-score game all the way till the end. And same thing that LSU here this last week, rushed for over 200 yards at LSU, and it's a 17-10 game all the way till just the last couple of possessions of the game. Vanderbilt played them earlier in the year and played really well, created some explosive plays, had some huge stops, some bunch of lost yardage plays early, and really stifled a few drives that they had going, and created some explosive plays offensively. Otherwise, again, he's done a really good job. They lost a bunch of guys from a year ago. Dylan Stewart, one of the premier pass rushers and all of college football. We got to see him up close and personal last year. They played really well when they came here last year, and hit us right in the mouth through basically 3 defensive touchdowns, 3 straight opening drives, 3 defensive turnovers, and 2 of them touchdowns, and the other one led to a quick touchdown. And so we need to play, really efficient. We got to take care of the football. We got to get better. We got to play more efficiently, offensively, and for 4 quarters. And defensively, We can't have any lapses. We've got to force turnovers. That's been a staple of who we are for decades. And for whatever reason, they're just not coming like we need them to come this year. They can be game changers and create momentum for your football team, certainly field position, scoring opportunities, etc. So, not a better time to get it started than this week. It'll be a great atmosphere, early morning game. They've always done a great job, at home, with their home crowd and whatnot.
11:45 here locally. Obviously, going to be 12:45 being in the Eastern time zone coming up on Saturday morning. Good news is, in terms of availability report through Wednesday night, was the name that wasn't on it, and it was Derek Simmons.
Yeah, and we kind of hinted at them potentially, having Derek this week, and that the injury wasn't maybe as severe as you thought when he was going off the field. I mean, we thought it was maybe going to be an issue, but as you can see, not even on the availability report, which means he's practicing, means he's going to be available on Saturday. Now, at what percent, we'll see. I'm sure that he's a little hobbled, but to have him against this defensive line is huge. The only name to really watch on there, Javonte Barnes. We'll see. We talked about that in a previous practice show. Brent said this week that he got hurt in pregame warmups. Obviously, you'd like to have him because he's one of your best pass protectors. I think Oklahoma would use him if he's available this week. Maybe a surprise, Keontez Lewis being on there. At the same time, I'm also like, I can't believe he played last week. I'm sure he's probably just feeling some bumps and bruises from some of the tough hits he's taken this year. I honestly don't know what's going on there, but I think you can expect a lot of Giovanni Gibson. Maybe we see an Elijah Thomas. Ivan Carrion is another guy that maybe we could see out there. So, and then obviously, Logan Howland, you'd like to get him back. He's somebody that was playing pretty, I guess somewhat well for you, at least give you some depth, early in the season. You'd like to get him back, but it looks like Oklahoma's going to be without him.
Hopefully, maybe you get an update on Thursday evening for the Keontez Lewis, Javonte Barnes, Logan Howlands of the roster there. Also, completely forgot that Gabriel Brownwell-Dindy is down in South Carolina now, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of. I guess I just kind of completely forgot about that name.
Also notable on their availability report, how many offensive linemen are on there?
Sure.
A lot of those guys, I think, I don't know if they're starters, but certainly depth guys that they would like to have available. I know Marquis Anderson especially is somebody that they're hoping to have available this week, and that's an offensive line unit. You think Oklahoma has struggled, South Carolina has struggled as much or more up front this season.
No doubt about it. They just fired their offensive line coach, as we'll hear from Wes Mitchell here shortly. Before we get to that, though, you got to talk about, when you're talking about South Carolina, you obviously got to talk about the quarterback. And LaNorris Sellers, maybe not up to par for what the preseason hype was, but certainly one of the more dynamic players in the country at the quarterback position. And as Brent Venables said there in the opening, seems like they have some guys little bit more fit around him, and that's kind of what makes the South Carolina experience so kind of mysterious this year.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the issue is the guys around him haven't maybe stepped up, and primarily the offensive line. You go and watch South Carolina's games this year, he's running for his life quite a bit, and I expect Oklahoma to kind of get after him, but containing him is going to be key, because the biggest plays he makes is when he gets out of the pocket, finds somebody down the field, or uses his legs. He's thrown for 4 touchdowns this year, 2 interceptions. So not a ton, through the air, not a ton of success. He's run the ball for 117 yards and a touchdown. Again, not a ton of a success, but certainly a guy that is a threat. Sure. And while he maybe hasn't had the type of production that people thought, he's still one of the better athletes in the country, a guy that, a lot of people think can be, an NFL quarterback someday. So he's also just huge. He's listed here on the website, 6'3", 240 pounds. So he's a load to get down to the ground, but he's the guy that kind of makes this thing go, and Oklahoma is going to have to do a really good job against him.
Certainly has everybody's attention in terms of the Oklahoma defense here as Brent Venables, as well as a number of Oklahoma defenders talking about the challenge that will be LaNorris Sellers.
Offensively, better personnel than what they had a year ago around the quarterback. The quarterback is one of the toughest players to defend, in my opinion, in the country. His arm talent, his strength, his speed. He's bigger and faster and stronger than most of your guys. And I love the heart and the toughness that he plays with.
He a dog. Yeah, he a dog for sure. He's definitely a great athlete. He's a great quarterback. Very hard to tackle. You can watch film and see that, he's getting out of a lot of sacks that should be dead to right sacks, and somehow, some way, he just get out of it. And I mean, I'm excited to play him again, and we gotta stay focused on the details and actually execute this week.
He can run. He's a elite football player, and we gotta do a good job and show up ready to go. Yeah, they're playing amazing football right now, and so we're excited. It'll be fun.
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback. Like, he had all the preseason praise and stuff, and we know he's capable of, and I think we got the right pieces, right game plan to really rattle him after watching some of the games. And they're honestly a really good team. Like, we played them last year. It's not a revenge game by any means, but it's just another game on our schedule, and we're trying to go 1-0 on the week.
A lot of challenges. He's elite, like I've been saying. So yeah, we got to do a good job of giving good attention to detail and staying focused and doing our job. Coach V is gonna put us in good calls. We just got to do our job. But yeah, they're a great opponent. They're playing elite football, so we're excited to play them.
Two amazing athletes, great football players. They're good. They're extremely well for their team. Sellers, I think, he's able to show what he can do. I think a top prospect quarterback coming up in this year's draft, if he keeps doing what he's doing. And then, like you said, Harbaugh, one of the fastest people in the world, not only in the country, but he's an extreme athlete, bigger guy, so physical. Yeah.
You look forward to that kind of challenge with Harbaugh, just when you get to go up against receivers like that.
No, I'm excited for any challenge in the SEC. That's why I'm excited to be here in SEC and playing for OU, because we got matchups like that every week. So it's another one on the schedule. I'm excited. We'll get ready for it.
One of the problems that Oklahoma had last weekend down at the Cotton Bowl was certainly uncharacteristic of the defense, and that was plenty of missed tackles, something that Brent Venables talked about this week.
Yeah, missed tackles, which this South Carolina team, they've got a lot of really good athletes, guys. They're running backs and a couple wide receivers. I mean, Nick Harbor, everybody knows about him and his speed, but guys that can be really elusive. And then one thing, too, that Oklahoma struggled at last week, Eddie, letting Arch Manning get out of a couple sacks, and he made some plays with his arm. LaNorris Sellers is the same type of player and obviously a lot better in terms of eluding guys. So you cannot let him get out of the pocket and make some plays, because otherwise this Oklahoma defense that has been really good, they can give up some plays because LaNorris Sellers is that type of player.
Certainly, you come to think of some of those plays there in the third quarter against Texas that Arch Manning or Trey Wisner was able to break out of. They ended up being bigger plays in the grand scheme of things. Brent Venables did talk about that on Tuesday. Here he is talking about the missed tackles against Texas.
We pointed out, just put a shortcut up together of just, man, this is uncharacteristic. You didn't do this in practice. You haven't done it in games. Yet here we are, and R. Mason played good, and we played with great effort. But the first run of the day, we do something uncharacteristic. Now I think it was a 2-yard gain. Maybe it was a few more yards. I don't even remember, but I know the play, and we did something. We put our head inside, when we're supposed to set the edge, and keep our outside arm free and set the edge 2-to-1, block it, and set a hard edge, because all of our help's inside. And we don't do that. We peek inside, and and that's not, you don't have even the technique to go along with peeking inside. And next thing you know, he's kind of getting worked, and we get loose in our run defense early, and it was just one guy. But next thing you know, they're gaining 4 yards. They're gaining 5 yards, or giving 7 yards, or the pile's going the wrong way because we got a little high and we're looking for the ball. And I thought the second half, and again, that wasn't the norm for us in the first half. And then I felt like those first two drives we were trying to go make a play, and the players will tell you that if you put a mic in front of them, they'll tell you the truth. And trying to make a play, nothing egregious other than, man, do your job. Play with great pad level. I said this. We got to play blocks better, and we got to tackle better. You do those two things, maybe you can go win the game on defense. They don't score that touchdown, and give credit to Texas. They were able to find the end zone, but man, we played a huge part in that. And I only say that because we played some plays within that drive that extended the drive, got them into plus territory. And if we just do what we have done, just play with basic, simple discipline. Nothing. Now, you don't have to beat nobody. Just do your job. Stay in your gap. Those things don't happen. And so that's a tough lesson to learn. And that's a tough lesson to learn when you pride yourself on that side of the ball at dramatically affecting the outcome of the game. And in my opinion, they're going into that game, we had a big advantage on our side of the ball compared to what we were playing. And at the end of the day, we didn't play 4 quarters of elite level defense that I felt like we were capable of playing going into that game.
Certainly going to have to do that if the Oklahoma wants to not only get through Saturday, but obviously I think everybody knows what's ahead with Ole Miss and Tennessee and Alabama and LSU and Missouri. It's going to be a rough road if they're not able to get things fixed on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the ball that I feel like we've talked about ad nauseum. We did catch up with Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central. Before we get to our interview with him, previewing everything with Shane Beamer's club, let us tell you about Game Time, gametime.co. Plenty of tickets ahead in places that you're going to want to be, whether it be in Norman for the Ole Miss game coming up next week against next week at 11 a.m., or maybe a little Thunder basketball season opener, ring night coming up next Tuesday, George.
Yeah, I might end up going to that. I've bought a lot of tickets on Game Time.
You bought one last week to the Cotton Bowl, right?
I did. My wife went to the game, and she enjoyed it. So it's super easy process to be able to go on there and obviously see where exactly your seats are. I'm actually looking at the South Carolina game. Mm-hmm. You can get a ticket for $199 on the 50-yard line, 7 rows up. For the game this weekend. So
I'm kind of interested
if you're
to see what
living,
this crowd's supposed to be
if
like.
you're an OU fan out in South Carolina, or if you're a South Carolina fan out there watching the show, go buy that ticket. That's a great seat.
I got some friends out in Charleston that's going to be making the trip, as well as Charlotte, where we'll be based out of this weekend in North Carolina. Even though we're going to South Carolina, you get the idea. All you got to do is take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem using the code ON3, the number 3, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And for more on South Carolina, we throw it to our interview with Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central. We now welcome in Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central. Oklahoma headed out to South Carolina. Our first trip out to South Carolina. Looking forward to the trip coming up this weekend. Oklahoma coming off of a loss, obviously, to Texas over the weekend. South Carolina did the same down in Baton Rouge. Wes, let's just start here. A good friend of the program, I would say, Shane Beamer. 3-3 right now, it certainly seems. Made the offensive line move here with the coach, Lonnie Teasley, at the beginning of this week. Kind of what's the vibe right now with South Carolina football as Oklahoma heads into a big one coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, guys, I appreciate y'all having me on. I think if you went on our message boards, if you asked random Gamecock fan, hey, there has been a lot of disappointment at this point in the season. I think a lot of people here, when you look at the fact you bring LaNorris Sellers back, you bring back Dylan Stewart on the defensive side of the ball, 2 guys you just feel like you can build around on both sides of the football. Now, they did lose a lot to the NFL, especially on defense, and you kind of, when you talked about the expectations, when you kind of tried to figure out what this team is going to be, in the back of your head, you always kind of had, well, they lose a lot on defense, like probably more than they ever have in one kind of cycle. But a lot of us, myself included, really thought this offense was going to be able to take a step forward. Sellers in year 2 as the starter. They brought in a bunch of receivers who are all really talented players. And, we kind of build it like, all right, defense may take a little bit of time just to get settled in, but the offense should be able to carry things early on. And just one of those situations where it just really just did not play out the way anybody kind of expected it to.
Wes, let's dive into the offense a little bit. We'll get to Sellers, but you mentioned it. This has not been the group that I think a lot of people expected. And I remember watching the first game of the season against Virginia Tech. They had some moments of brilliance, especially that, I think it was that opening drive. They just went right down the field, and you're like, man, this group's going to be really good. What's been the root of the issue for this offense? I know they just fired their offensive line coach. Maybe that was it, but what's maybe caused this group some problems?
Yeah, I would say if you want to talk really generally, just self-inflicted issues, particularly guys when they have good drives going and then they just find a way to put themselves behind the sticks. This has been probably the team I've seen. I've never seen a team have more like false start or procedural issues just in terms of there was just something off up front. And, I don't think Beamer necessarily wanted to have to make the move to get rid of Lonnie Teasley. I think, he's a guy who's actually done a lot of good for this program. He was credited when he took over the O-line mid-season because a couple of years ago, their actual O-line coach had a health scare. He took over, and a lot of people felt like at the time he kind of sparked the O-line a little bit. Like I said, is recruited probably as well as South Carolina ever has on the offensive line, at least on paper. And so a lot of people thought, well, these guys that were 4- and 5-star players, they're going into year 2, they're going into year 3. There's going to be a big jump on the offensive line. That just has not been the case. And really have struggled to run the football for much of the season. Pass protection has been an issue. Not all that has been on the O-line, as you guys know. I mean, if you look at any given sack, like this one could be on the O-line, that could be on the running back, this one could be on the quarterback hanging on to the ball too long. It's been all those things, to be completely honest. But I think when Beamer really sort of looked at the totality of the first 6 games of the year, just all the little kind of issues that you would not expect from an SEC offensive line. Again, false starts at home against SC State, like multiple times, and different guys. It's not like it's just one guy where you're going, well, hey, this kid has this issue, let's replace him. They had, I think it was 5 false starts Saturday in Baton Rouge, 5 different guys, and it just became something that Shane Beamer could not ignore.
That makes it tough, extremely tough. We've been well-versed in poor offensive line play here over about the last year and a half with Oklahoma. Likewise, Oklahoma hasn't certainly had a quarterback like LaNorris Sellers. I guess in terms of South Carolina offensively, LaNorris Sellers, what kind of season has he had to date? I know that the Cole Kublik number that he put out last week about the 19 attempts for 22 yards, and he actually ran like 849 yards or something crazy. What kind of season has he had? And I would have to imagine that the Gamecock fans, they can't fall back on. They have some elite skill talent at the wide receiver position as well.
Yeah, and LaNorris has not put up the numbers I think he would tell you he expected to put up.
Sure.
You look at what he did the final 6 games of the regular season last year, and like if you had just measured those games out over an entire season, you're talking about a guy who's probably at the Heisman ceremony. So he really just settled in last year. To this point, those numbers have not been there this year. Now, I think certainly has not all been on LaNorris Sellers. Certainly at times he has been running for his life. And there's been some really good moments within kind of the moments of frustration for him. I think this receiving core, very talented on paper, has taken a little bit of time for them to kind of settle in too. Run game has taken some time to settle in. A lot of that, again, just goes back to, I look at it like this is a team that is just not built to overcome 1st and 15 or 2nd and 13. And when they're staying ahead of the sticks, and even if it's a note like 0-yard gain, even if they get nothing, they kind of are built to where maybe they can replace that. Like that doesn't necessarily put them in a situation that they can't keep the ball moving. But the second they have a holding call or a false start call, they just have not been able to erase those deficits. And so Sellers, I think, is pressed a little bit. He had, I thought, probably his best game against Kentucky, which followed probably his best passing performance against Missouri. He threw all over Missouri. This past week, I think LSU did just a fantastic job, honestly, of getting to him. Got to the point where he was kind of seeing ghosts. He kind of thought there was pressure even when it wasn't there. And he has not let his frustration show publicly in like press conferences or with comments or anything. So, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but you got to imagine it's just been an overall frustrating year because not that he has been perfect, but also a lot of it has probably been off his shoulders, in my opinion.
Wes, let's flip over to the defensive side of the football. Last year, they wrecked this game. Absolutely.
Got to know them quite well.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Stewart was a monster, and I know that they've lost several guys on that defense that was really good for him a year ago. What have you made of this defense so far? Because you look at them statistically, and I know it's not the best, but then you look at the turnovers that they've created. I think they've created like 12 turnovers this season, which I think Oklahoma's only created 2, and obviously OU's also turned the ball over a lot. Feels like that's an advantage maybe that South Carolina and this defense can take advantage of.
Yeah, I think Clayton White, their defensive coordinator, has done a phenomenal job just replacing that talent. And they're not quite as talented just in terms of NFL guys as they were last year overall. That was probably the most talented defense they've had since like the Clowney days, I think, at South Carolina. And they just had talent at all three levels. You look at Demetrius Knight, who kind of came out of nowhere as a transfer for them last year. He was phenomenal, came in from Charlotte, and then was like an all-SEC level guy, NFL draft pick. They lost him. They lose Nick Eamon-Worry. They lose Kyle Kennard, who just wrecked shop at the edge spot, kind of opposite of Dylan Stewart. So they've had to replace guys, combination of some older players who are getting to step into bigger roles, some transfers again, and then some just lesser-known guys who I think have played pretty well just within the scheme. I think you don't quite have the upper-level playmakers they had last year. Like Nick Eamon-Worry, this guy could do anything on a football field. Like, literally, they could say, hey, go cover that guy one-on-one. They could say, hey, play the deep part of the field and man free. They could say, hey, this week we're going to use you to rush the passer. And he could just do all those things. Like, he was a cleanup guy where even if everybody else was wrong, he would clean up the play for you and keep it from being, it's a 10-yard gain instead of a 40-yard gain. And so they have lost some of that just elite talent. But honestly, I mean, they've played well. I look at it like this. They've given South Carolina a chance in just about every game. Vanderbilt game got away from them, but the offense just wasn't really doing much from a complimentary standpoint. I feel like they've gotten worn down late in some games where I'm sure mentally and physically it's just kind of been tough to play opposite of this offense. But they've given South Carolina a chance, and I think if you're looking at this game, can they get OU in kind of those passing situations? Because even though they lost guys to the NFL, they still, if they have the opportunity to pin their ears back, for one, Clayton White will get very aggressive and is willing to send extra guys. But you have guys like Dylan Stewart, Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside who can win one-on-one pass rush reps and get after the quarterback. Those guys really took over the Kentucky game and just gave Kentucky no shot on offense.
Yeah, but that was the game that the former Oklahoma running back Seth McGowan almost beheaded LaNorris Sellers' grandfather in the end zone. Special teams, we always talk about it when you're talking about a Shane Beamer team or his dad, obviously, at Virginia Tech. What kind of special teams unit has South Carolina had this season? And has it been kind of what was to be expected usually of a Shane Beamer-led program?
I mean, another example of you just don't know what's going to happen once you start playing real football because – I mean, they replaced their kicker, their punter, their long snapper, their holder, their punt returner, and their kickoff returner from last season. So you're going, and then they replaced a lot of the guys we don't even talk about, like the gunners and the upmen, the protection, the personal protectors for the punter. Replaced like their entire special teams, and everybody's going, this could be a question this year. And Bakari Swain, who takes over as their punt returner, ends up returning 3 punts for touchdown within the first 2 games of the season, which I've never seen happen in my life. So the special teams have actually, especially with the context of everything they had to replace, they've been really, really good. Mason Love has taken over at punter for Kai Kroger, who was really a weapon for them in some of the fake punt stuff that they like to do. They've tried a couple of those. They tried one against LSU and got a penalty called, which Beamer, I think, is still pissed about because it was probably not the right call and was going to go for a first down. So they are a team you still have to spend a little extra time if you're an opponent on special teams when you face this group, and you have to be aware that they will fake a punt, honestly, anywhere on the field. It doesn't matter. I think we've seen Beamer even get a little bit more aggressive because he kind of knows in the traditional, watch for a fake here situations, everybody knows we're just going to put punt safe out there. So he's had to be, I think, a little bit more aggressive or just a little bit more creative to where I've seen their fake punts now maybe have an element of like misdirection, an element of we're not just going to surprise you, we're going to try to also add in another layer, another wrinkle in what we do on this fake punt. So, yeah, man, they're pretty aggressive on special teams. Nick Harbor is their kickoff return guy this year. I think he'll eventually break one. He's been very, very close this season too.
Wes, kind of a broad question for you, and last one for me here. I saw Shane's press conference the other day after the game, and I think he said something like, we're 3-3. We were in the same spot last year going to Oklahoma. Same spot this year, obviously, with Oklahoma coming to South Carolina. How big of a game is this for South Carolina? Like, they can still get things back on track in some regard. Like how big is this? Obviously, they just fired an assistant coach. Like, what does this game mean, I guess, for Shane and probably some of the other coaches on staff?
Yeah, I think it's massive, boys. I mean, I've had this conversation a couple times this year, though, where coming off the Vandy loss, you're going, well, if they can beat Missouri at Missouri, the season's right back on track. And then you're going, I know going to LSU is tough, but is LSU really that good this year? Spoiler alert, I didn't think they were that good. South Carolina just did not play all that well. And but hey, there's another loss. So you're kind of running out of opportunities to be able to say, oh, you can still turn this thing around and meet a lot of your goals. So I think it's massive. It's massive that it's at home as well. I think just to go out there and play well in front of your home crowd, would be really good just for the general vibe around the program right now. I mean, I think college athletics in general right now, if you're not winning, like, it's as negative as it has ever been. And that's certainly the case at South Carolina right now, especially considering the expectations for this season coming in and kind of what people thought this group could be. So, yeah, it would be massive for them to win it. And then, I just think more of the same, more negativity if they can't win this one.
Will we get Sandstorm even though it's an 11:45 kickoff? I guess 12:45 out there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're going to be so tired of Sandstorm.
Okay.
Should we be looking forward to the state fair?
Back-to-back state fairs for us, coming in from Dallas, obviously, last week with the Cotton Bowl.
How was the state fair there experience?
We love it.
It's awesome.
But it's different.
It's huge.
I mean, the OU Texas one, it's insane. So
yeah, I wouldn't expect that, but I mean, I'll tell you what. If I'm going to give you one piece of advice, it is whatever time you think you should head to the stadium, go like an hour or 2 hours earlier.
Okay.
The state fair being there it takes an area that's already engulfed with like 100,000 people and just multiplies it exponentially. So it's going to be a cluster, to be honest with you. But if you want to swing by the fair, get the experience, smell some fried food, I would encourage it, but I wouldn't say it's like can't miss either, honestly.
All right, very good. Looking forward to a trip to Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday. Wes Mitchell, Gamecock Central, we appreciate it, and we will see you on Saturday.
All right, guys. You have a good one. Thank y'all.
See ya.
Thanks, Wes.
Really good to catch up with Wes. Always good to catch up with him. I feel like that'll be a nice little connection here over the next couple of years, and it's certainly going to be interesting, as he talked about. Seems like both of these teams, in terms of needing a win, they're both desperate to try to find themselves on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, South Carolina, there's a lot of expectations for Oklahoma coming into the season. I would say the same expectations were on South Carolina. They just missed the playoff last year, and it just has kind of been disappointing the way their season has started. So this is a big one for our friend Shane Beamer.
And as you said, I think that this is kind of a rallying point, somewhat like it was a year ago for South Carolina, and all of a sudden they started to play really good football, beat Oklahoma, and then obviously at the end of the season beat up on Clemson. Plenty of more to show to get into. Want to talk about Taylor Wein and some one-possession ball games, which seems to be a little bit of a thing of the week here in the SEC. You're writing about that on Friday. First, let us tell you about our good friends over at Harry's. George, we've been telling about Harry's here over the last week.
I love Harry's. I actually used it again this morning to shave off the little facial hair I had on my mustache there. Ooh. So it was a clean shave, and you can go to their website. They got all sorts of good products, and I use it. Like I said, I've been using it for years.
For a limited time, our listeners and viewers can get the Harry's Plus trial set for $10. That's only $10. You see it on the screen right here. It's $20. If you use the promo code SooterScoop at harrys.com/SooterScoop, you will get that for $10. This set includes all new Harry's Plus Razor 1 Refined 5-Blades cartridge, the 2-ounce foam shaving gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go, like we'll be this weekend, headed down to South Carolina. Thank you to our good friends over at Harry's.
That's a heck of a deal.
It's a really good deal.
$10 for all that?
It's a really good deal. Probably cheaper than going through puberty. Maybe you can get a little bit more facial hair.
That's true. I do need to go through puberty still.
No, you got it, I think. We'll check. We'll do that. If OU loses, we'll check on Georgia's puberty next week. All right, let's get into the one possession stuff, because you're writing about that on Friday. Some really intriguing numbers, as well as commentary from some of the coaches and players. Ben Arbuckle and some of the players talking about it. But Oklahoma, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, they're going to be in a number of one-score games, you would hope and imagine, here coming up over the next 6 games.
Yeah, and even this Texas game, I know obviously the final score ended up not being a technically one-score game, but it was for the majority. All the way into the fourth quarter, it was a one-score game. And, Oklahoma under Brent Venables hasn't exactly fared well in those games. I think they're 6-9 in those games. Now, the one thing I will say on that stat, they started out 0-5. They lost all 5 games that were one score in his first year. It was not pretty.
Right.
I wasn't covering the team then. I know you.
I can confirm it was not pretty.
It was not good. So they need to figure that out. They need to change that narrative because I do think these final 6 games, I don't know how many of them are going to be one score, but I can guarantee you they probably are all going to be pretty close.
Sure.
And so Oklahoma's going to have to figure out how to win games late. And Brent talked this week. They've done that, twice this year in the Michigan game where they went on the long drive, sucked the clock down and kind of put that game away. The Auburn game, it was a one-score game late in that one, and they were able to go down and score quickly to put that game away. So I think Oklahoma has it in them. They just have to continue to do some of those things. Can't shoot themselves in the foot. Early in the game, the first half blunder can't happen like it did down in the Cotton Bowl. All of those things. And one other stat I'll throw at you, Eddie. I told you this one before we came in here. Of all the SEC games played this year, 11 of them so far have already been one-score games across the league.
Sure.
So it's a trend that you're seeing in the SEC where pretty much every team, it feels like, has a chance to win every single week. It feels like the NFL in a lot of ways. And so Oklahoma, when you look at this final stretch where they've got, I think 5 of their final 6 are against top 16 teams, they're going to play in some games that are very, very close.
Should be interesting. Here is a number of Oklahoma players talking about that on Monday night, as well as Ben Arbuckle adding to the dialogue on one-possession games in the Southeastern Conference.
How much of a lesson have you guys that have been here for a couple of years now learned about playing in the SEC, regardless of a team's record or how they're viewed coming in, that they probably have some pretty good players on their team?
I mean, I feel like football is a hard sport in general, but in the SEC especially, I feel like it's definitely a one-possession league, and games are won all the time and with one possession and, lacking details. So it's just like, if you lack details, just try your hardest to forget about it on the next play and execute this next play, and don't harp on it. Coach V always says it's a one-possession league, and five plays on either side of the ball can ultimately lead to the win or loss. And so we just need to do our job to make sure that those are in our favor, do the little things, the details that will ultimately lead us to the victory.
Yeah, it is a one-possession league. I think when you look across the conference as a whole, every conference game, maybe not all of them, but a vast majority of them are one-possession games. The biggest thing in this league, and my approach to the mindset, and it's the approach that I've had everywhere, is you have to be complementary with your defense. And I think we have a very, very talented defense. So any way that I can help them out, I'm going to. Is there things that we can do on offense that maybe we've been inefficient in some areas, or we just had some execution errors, or we've had some self-inflicted wounds? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you got to be complementary with your defense in order to win in this conference, because it is a one-possession league, and I don't see that changing.
We know what to do. We have all the answers, I feel like, and the fact knowing that we have all the answers is just, we got to execute. On top of that, it's we're breaking down, our coaches are doing such a great job at teaching this, teaching the defense, teaching the offense, and it's even the third, fourth streams, they know what to do because our coaches are just such great teachers, and that adds motivations knowing that they have our backs. Through thick and thin, we're ready to run through a brick wall for them. It's just, so.
A number of the players on the Oklahoma defense have been kind of starred as just development, just straight development. And one of those, maybe the best example so far this season, has been the development in a breakout season in year number 3 for somebody like a Taylor Wein.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And he goes back to even spring ball, and then obviously fall camp. We heard the coaches just rave about him and the development, and you're seeing it come to fruition. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know he's does he lead the country in tackles for loss?
I believe
or something
so.
like that?
It leads the SEC.
It leads
I believe
the SEC,
in tackles
so-
for loss, coming off of his career high 3 tackles for loss on Saturday against Texas.
He's just been a monster, and that whole room has been extremely good. But Taylor Wein is kind of exemplifies what this program has kind of built itself on over the last few years on the defensive side of the ball, which is, get talent in, and develop them. And not always is a true freshman going to come in and just dominate, right? I think everybody expected that out of somebody even like a PJ, who I think is having a really good year. He's shown a lot of development, but especially someone like Taylor Wein, who maybe wasn't the most highly recruited guy. He's come in, worked his butt off, waited his time, and he's done an unbelievable job so far. And he's a guy that has been really good this year. And you have to imagine if he's back next year, which I would assume he will be, he's going to be a big time playmaker.
Certainly one of those guys that you'll hear from Brent Venables talk about him that you just kind of feel like he loves him. He loves
If he could
guy.
have 11 Taylor Weins on the field at a time, he would.
A little bit of and you wrote a story about this maybe a while back. It might have even been when you were still a student, but kind of motored with the same Dan Cody mindset of just maybe a little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy. Dan Cody definitely.
The good kind.
Yeah, Dan Cody has some of that in him, but I think Taylor Wein, certainly that's a pretty good comparison.
Here's a little bit more from Taylor Wein as well as Brent Venables talking about his development here over the course of the season.
Not good enough. Got to get better. A lot of areas and got to keep working, keep shoveling and keep getting better. And attention to details, fundamentals, getting lined up, and I'm gonna continue to work on it and Lord willing, get better each week.
Do you take pride in the fact that you among the best in the SEC right now in tackles for loss?
Doesn't mean nothing. I got to get better, so doesn't mean anything.
And we've all been there where a guy did really surprise, and then for whatever reason they lose their way, and he's been fantastic. And my favorite part about him is how hard he works, the consistency of how hard he works. And so this is a great example why he's playing up here, because of all this work. His confidence comes from the work. His consistency comes from win the day mentality every single day. His ability to be coached really, really hard. He's one of those guys that it's easy to coach hard because he receives it well. He doesn't go in the tank. He's not soft-minded or soft-hearted. He's got very thick skin. It goes to the critique goes to all the right places. And sometimes your words are so powerful that they can, crush someone's spirit. And so that's a mark of a coach, to figure out, what your players need, what they feed off of. And man, he's been a stud. I left last night and he's up in the building. We're walking out virtually at the same time, and I come back in this morning, there he is. I mean, do you go to class? I mean, are you working on your progress towards your degree? Are we good there? And he's an excellent student, but he's very focused, and he's a gym rat. But it's been cool to see the development, and it's none of it's by accident. So he's this amazing example for the other guys. At the end of the day, look at this guy. Comes in here. He was one of those add-ons late. We had a guy, that decommitted late, and we found him immediately. I'm like, man, this guy might be every bit, if not better than the guy we lost. That's literally the conversation in the moment. Coach Chavis, he's ready to jump off the bridge down here at I-35, and I'm like, man, this guy is better, I'm telling you. And he wants to be here. And then there was a connection. His dad had worked here. They had lived in Oklahoma City, and they live in Tennessee, but they had lived in Oklahoma City before, and they loved the Sooners. And then they wanted to commit before they even got here. And then you're like, whoa, I know we offered you, but you're not supposed to say yes right away. And that's just kind of a coaching thing. Now you're thinking there's something wrong, But next thing he blew up, and all these people wanted him to, and it's a really cool story. And it's a good message for us, too, in recruiting. Find the right people. They got to be good enough, but find the right people, man. People matter. And his passion and his toughness, man, and his love for the game, his love for coaching, his love for discipleship is extraordinary. And, and he'll continue. It's not like it. Oh man, they got to pay more attention. He'll figure it out. He's strong. He's physical. He's fast. He plays quick. He's got good instincts. Not perfect. Still, man, just tapping into what he's going to be, and he's been fun to watch.
He has been indeed, Brent. Really good, really cool story about Taylor Wein. And I just think back to even some of the stuff during the summer that he was out there working his ass off with, all the high school guys that were coming in through camp, that kind of thing. Never really think that that's a big deal, but in a sense, it kind of is a big deal. A little bit of leadership. Certainly one of those guys, when you lose an Mason Thomas next year, that's going to be the leader in that defensive end room, Taylor Wein.
Yeah, and I think he learned a lot from a guy like Ethan Downs.
Sure.
A couple years now, or when he was here for the last couple years, and I think he's kind of taken over that role in a lot of ways. And like you said, he's going to end up being a leader, but he's been fantastic this year, and he's a big reason why this defense has had a ton of success.
No doubt about it. Oklahoma headed out to South Carolina, Columbia Williams-Brice Stadium, 12:45 kickoff East Coast time, 11:45 on SEC Network. Thoughts, concerns, criticisms going into this one, because I think we've painted the picture quite clear. This is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must-win, and I think Oklahoma is going to win. I think that. I don't know if that's because I believe in Oklahoma as much as I don't know how good South Carolina is. I think they've got some nice players. I like Shane Beamer a lot, and he's done some good things there. But I think Oklahoma's the better team. I think John Mateer's going to play better. It's hard to play worse than he did a week ago. So I think Oklahoma responds nicely, and I think this defense, too, continues to play well and does a good job shutting down South Carolina.
Just had a PTSD flashback. It can't be worse.
Yeah.
How many times did we sit here and say that a year ago?
A lot.
We shall see. We will talk to you on Friday for it Around the Corner, taking all your questions from the Crimson Quarter and answering them right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here next time.